There's a document circulating right now that changes everything we thought we knew about Hurricane Melissa. It's not what the government told you. It's not what the news reported in those first chaotic days. This document, compiled by United Nations scientists using technology most Jamaicans don't even know exists, contains 7 findings. 7 pieces of evidence that prove what happened to Jamaica wasn't just an act of God. And the 6th finding, it's already being used in international courts to redefine what we call a natural disaster. But before we get there, you need to understand what the UN team saw when they arrived. Because what they found in the wreckage wasn't just broken concrete and twisted zinc. They found something that would send shockwaves through every climate summit, every insurance boardroom, every government treasury from here to Geneva. The winds hit 185 miles per hour. To put that in perspective, that's faster than a Formula One race car at top speed, screaming across the island for hours. But speed alone doesn't tell you what that feels like. Imagine standing in front of a jet engine. Now imagine that jet engine is the size of the entire parish of Westmoreland. That's what hit us. And when the rain came, it didn't fall. It drove downward like nails. Steel rain, some survivors called it. The kind of rain that doesn't just soak you, it bruises you. Then came the waves. 15, 20 feet high in some coastal areas. Waves that rose higher than the rooftops of 2-story homes. Waves that carried fishing boats 300 meters inland and left them in people's bedrooms. This is the context. This is what the UN walked into. And when their team of engineers, climate scientists, and disaster analysts began their assessment, they knew immediately this wasn't going to be another standard relief report. This was going to be evidence. Let's start with finding number 1, because this is where the conversation stops being about weather and starts being about survival. The economic devastation. Jamaica lost the equivalent of 30% of its gross domestic product in 1 week. 30%. Let me help you understand what that actually means, because when you hear percentages, your brain kind of glazes over, right? Imagine you work all year, every single day, every sacrifice, every hustle, every dollar you make. Now imagine that on December 25th, someone walks up to you and takes away 4 months of everything you earned. January, February, March, April, gone, just erased. You still have to pay your bills, you still have obligations, but a third of your income just vanished. Now scale that up to an entire country. That's what happened to Jamaica. $7 billion US. With a B, but here's what the UN emphasized, and this is crucial. That's the preliminary figure. The number is expected to rise, because this isn't just about what broke during the storm. It's about what happens after. Tourism bookings canceled for the next 6 months. That's revenue gone. Small businesses that can't reopen because their equipment was destroyed. That's jobs gone. Supply chains disrupted, meaning imported goods cost more, meaning inflation rises, meaning your money buys less. That's purchasing power gone. Farmers who lost entire harvests. That's food security gone. And all of this creates a debt spiral. Because now the government has to borrow billions to rebuild, which means less money for schools, hospitals, and infrastructure for the next decade. The UNDP's Kishan Kedu described it with 2 words that should terrify every Jamaican: generational shock. This isn't something we recover from in 2 years. This is something our children will still be paying for. When your daughter applies for a student loan in 2030, Hurricane Melissa will be part of the reason interest rates are higher. That's what generational means. Oh, and that catastrophe bond. The $150 million payout that made headlines. It covers less than 3% of the damage. 3%. That's like your house burning down and the insurance company handing you enough money to replace the doormat. But numbers, even numbers this staggering, they don't tell you what it feels like to live through this. For that, we need finding number 2. And this is where it gets personal. 1.5 million lives upended. Think about that number. 1.5 million. That's nearly half of Jamaica's entire population. 1 out of every 2 people you know was directly affected by this storm. But affected is such a sterile word, isn't it? Let me tell you what affected actually looks like. It looks like 32 confirmed dead, with that number expected to rise as rescue teams finally reach communities that have been cut off for weeks. It looks like thousands of families in Hanover, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Trelawney, Clarendon, waking up to find their homes partially or completely destroyed. It looks like a mother in Negril standing in what used to be her living room, now open to the sky, trying to explain to her 6-year-old son why they can't go back inside. It looks like an elderly man in Savannah Lamar who rode out the storm in his bathroom, the only room with walls still standing, clutching a photo album. Everything else he owned now scattered across 3 parishes. It looks like shelters overcrowded to the point where families are sleeping in shifts. It looks like food distribution lines stretching for blocks, people waiting in the sun for hours just to get rice and tinned mackerel to feed their children. But here's what the UN discovered that most news reports missed: the invisible victims. The UN Women Division released a separate analysis that should make your blood boil. Over 445,000 women and girls were directly affected, and their burden didn't just double, it tripled, quadrupled. Because when the power goes out, who's hand-washing clothes for the entire family? When the water stops running, who's walking miles to find a clean source? When the clinics close, who's taking care of sick children and elderly parents without medicine? When the food supply gets disrupted, who's figuring out how to stretch 1 can of corned beef across 3 meals? The UN found that women's unpaid labor, the invisible work that holds society together, doubled overnight. Doubled. And nobody's compensating them. Nobody's even acknowledging it in most recovery plans. So when we talk about 1.5 million lives upended, understand that 500,000 of those lives belong to women and girls who are now working twice as hard just to survive, while also processing their own trauma, their own losses, their own fear. At least 32 people confirmed dead. But let's be honest about what confirmed means. It means bodies that have been found and identified. It doesn't include the fisherman who went out that morning and never came back. It doesn't include the elderly woman in a remote St. Elizabeth village whose family hasn't been able to reach her because the roads are still blocked. Confirmed is just what we know so far. The real number is always higher. And this human catastrophe, this ocean of grief and displacement and exhaustion, this is what the UN's technology was designed to measure. Which brings us to finding number 3, the discovery that changed everything. Now, before I continue, I need you to do something. If this story matters to you, if you believe Jamaica's truth needs to be heard, hit that subscribe button right now. We're pushing to reach 10,000 subscribers because these stories, these facts that the mainstream media glosses over, they need a platform. And after you subscribe, drop a comment below. Tell me where you were when Melissa hit. Tell me what you lost. Tell me what you're feeling. Because your voice, your experience, that's part of the evidence too. The UN can give us data, but you give us truth. So subscribe, comment, and let's make sure Jamaica's story doesn't get buried under the next news cycle. Now, finding number 3, 4.8 million tons of debris. Let me say that again slowly. 4.8 million tons. That's the largest debris field in Jamaica's recorded history. To help you visualize this, that's roughly 480,000 truckloads. Imagine a convoy of dump trucks stretching from Kingston to Montego Bay, back to Kingston, and then to Negril and back again. Twice. That's how much destruction we're talking about. But here's what makes this finding absolutely revolutionary. It's not just the amount, it's how they found it. The United Nations deployed AI-powered satellite technology that can assess disaster damage from space within days. Within days. Technology that would have taken weeks or even months of dangerous ground surveys, completed in 72 hours. These satellites, flying hundreds of miles above Earth, using artificial intelligence trained on thousands of disaster scenarios, looked down at Jamaica and saw what our eyes on the ground couldn't see. Entire neighborhoods erased, infrastructure buried under rubble, forests flattened like they were made of paper. From space, they mapped every collapsed building, every blocked road, every shattered community. And what that technology revealed wasn't just impressive. It was haunting. Because that mountain of debris, those 4.8 million tons, they're not just numbers in a report. Each ton represents something, someone, a life that was built over years and destroyed in hours. But the UN didn't stop at the total. They did something unprecedented. They broke down those 4.8 million tons into 3 categories, 3 types of loss that together tell the complete story of what Hurricane Melissa actually took from us. This is finding number 4, the anatomy of destruction. 2 million tons of building debris, homes, schools, clinics, churches, community centers, the structures that housed our lives, that sheltered our dreams, that held our histories. 2 million tons of concrete, wood, zinc, glass, steel, gone. But when we say building debris, we're not just talking about materials. We're talking about the clinic in Petersfield where 3 generations of babies were born. We're talking about the school in Green Island where your grandmother learned to read. We're talking about the church in Lucia where your parents got married. Buildings aren't just structures. They're memory, their identity. And 2 million tons of that identity is now rubble. 1.4 million tons of personal belongings. This category breaks my heart because this is where the statistics become unbearably human. Furniture, tools, family heirlooms. Every piece of furniture in those numbers belonged to someone. That mahogany dining table your grandfather built with his own hands. In the debris count. The sewing machine your mother used to make school uniforms to pay the bills. Debris. The photo albums with pictures of relatives who have passed on, the only images you had of them. Debris. The tools a carpenter spent 20 years collecting, his entire livelihood. Debris. 1.4 million tons of personal belongings means 1.4 million tons of irreplaceable memories, of sentimental value that no insurance payout can ever restore. Because you can rebuild a house, but you can't rebuild your grandmother's handwritten recipes. You can replace a bed, but you can't replace the quilt she made you before she died. And then, 1.3 million tons of vegetation. The forests that once cooled our communities. The fruit trees that fed us. The mangroves that protected our coastlines. The crops that were weeks away from harvest. 1.3 million tons of green life, ripped out by the roots and scattered like trash. And here's what most people don't understand about vegetation loss. Those trees, those root systems, they were holding back the next flood. They were anchoring the soil. They were absorbing carbon dioxide. Every tree lost means we're more vulnerable to the next storm. Every mangrove destroyed means the next hurricane surge will reach further inland. But here's the cruel irony. That same debris, the evidence of everything we lost, is now the obstacle preventing our recovery. Which brings us to finding number 5, and this is where the disaster becomes a crisis. Systems on their knees. The debris didn't just pile up and sit there quietly. It became an active threat. It blocked highways, it covered bridges, it buried rural lanes. At least 30 communities were completely cut off. Completely. That means no ambulances in, no food trucks in, no communication. Imagine being trapped in your damaged home, injured maybe, definitely hungry, watching your food supply dwindle, and you can't leave because a mountain of rubble is blocking the only road out. And nobody can reach you because that same rubble is blocking the only road in. Power collapsed for 2/3 of the island. 2/3. In 2025, in a modern Caribbean nation, 2/3 of the country went dark. And we're not talking about a few hours. Some areas were without electricity for weeks. No lights. No refrigeration, meaning whatever food you had spoiled in days. No phone charging. No internet. No fans in the brutal heat that followed the storm. Even radio signals went down. And this is critical because radio is our emergency lifeline. When the power's out, when the internet's down, radio is how we get information about where to find help, where to find food, which roads are passable. And even that went dark. Hospitals were crippled. The Black River Hospital was completely evacuated. Let that sink in. An entire hospital evacuated. Where do those patients go? What happens to someone in the middle of treatment? In Montego Bay, critical service units went offline. In Trelawney and Hanover, neonatal units failed. Neonatal. That means premature babies, fragile infants depending on incubators and specialized care, suddenly without power. Dialysis units failed. That means people with kidney disease, people who need regular treatment to survive, couldn't get it. The debris wasn't just a symptom of the disaster. It was an ongoing disaster. It trapped ambulances trying to reach emergency calls. It delayed food convoys trying to reach hungry communities. It left farmers watching their crops rot in the fields because they couldn't get them to market. Weeks later, some clinics still couldn't reopen because the roads to reach them were still impassable. This is what systemic collapse looks like. Everything is connected. When the debris blocks the roads, ambulances can't move. When ambulances can't move, people die from treatable conditions. When power fails, hospitals can't operate. When hospitals can't operate, routine procedures become life-threatening emergencies. When communication fails, people can't coordinate rescue efforts. When rescue efforts fail, isolated communities suffer alone. But amid all this chaos, all this devastation, all this suffering, one question began to emerge among scientists. One question that would change how we talk about Hurricane Melissa forever. Could something else have fueled this storm's unimaginable power? That question leads us to finding number 6. The one that proves this wasn't just a natural disaster. The climate connection. This is it. This is the finding that's being cited in international climate courts right now. The World Weather Attribution Study, one of the most rigorous climate science organizations on the planet, conducted a rapid analysis of Hurricane Melissa. Their conclusion, published and peer-reviewed, confirmed what many suspected but few could prove. Human-induced climate change contributed to the intensification and increased wetness of Hurricane Melissa. Read that again. Human-induced climate change, not maybe, not possibly, contributed, past tense, confirmed. That means the heat trapped in our atmosphere by decades of burning fossil fuels, by industrial emissions, by deforestation, that heat supercharged this storm. It made it stronger. It made it wetter. It made it more destructive. This wasn't just an act of God. This was the predictable outcome of a heating planet. And here's why this matters beyond Jamaica. For years, vulnerable nations, small island developing states like Jamaica, have been warning the developed world. Your emissions are creating storms that are destroying us. And for years, wealthy polluting nations have responded with sympathy but not responsibility. They've offered aid but not accountability. They've said, we'll help you rebuild, but they haven't said, we'll stop causing the problem. Hurricane Melissa changed that conversation, because now there's evidence. Now there's data. Now scientists can point to a specific storm and say, this storm was made worse by human activity. And that means someone is responsible. At COP30, the UN is using Jamaica's data, the satellite imagery, the debris analysis, the economic calculations, all of it, to push for stronger loss and damage funding. They're arguing that what happened to Jamaica is exactly what climate scientists have been warning about for decades. And wealthy nations can no longer hide behind uncertainty. But here's the part that should terrify you. Remember that 1.3 million tons of vegetation that was destroyed, forests and mangroves that took decades to grow. Those natural barriers are gone now, which means Jamaica is now more vulnerable to the next hurricane. Melissa didn't just damage Jamaica. Melissa made Jamaica more susceptible to future damage. Climate change caused Melissa to intensify, and Melissa, in turn, made climate change worse. Because all that destroyed vegetation, It was absorbing carbon dioxide. Now it's gone. Some of it, if not cleared quickly, will decompose and release methane, a greenhouse gas far more potent than carbon dioxide. We're trapped in a vicious cycle. Emissions warm the planet. Warming intensifies storms. Storms destroy the natural defenses that protect us and absorb emissions, which makes the next storm worse, and on and on. This is what climate scientists mean when they talk about feedback loops. And Jamaica is living inside one right now. But, and this is crucial, the UN's seventh and final finding offers something we desperately need. Hope. Not naive hope. Not thoughts and prayers. Actual, practical, evidence-based hope. Building back smarter. Finding number 7 is about Jamaica's future. And for the first time, recovery isn't just about restoring what was. It's about building what should have been. The UN's recovery plan focuses on 3 urgent pillars, 3 priorities that, if followed, could transform this tragedy into a turning point. Pillar 1. Debris removal first. This sounds obvious, but it's revolutionary in practice. Because historically, recovery efforts have been chaotic, uncoordinated, everyone trying to rebuild at once. The UN is saying no. Nothing moves until the roads are clear. No reconstruction, no replanting, no resettlement until we remove the 4.8 million tons blocking our path forward. Because you can't rebuild a community if ambulances can't reach it. You can't restart the economy if trucks can't deliver goods. Debris removal isn't just cleanup. It's the foundation of everything else. Pillar 2. Rebuilding livelihoods. This is where recovery becomes personal. The UN isn't just focused on big infrastructure projects. They're prioritizing support for small businesses, farmers, and local tradespeople. Because recovery doesn't happen from the top down. It happens from the ground up. When the corner shop reopens, when the local carpenter has tools again, when the farmer can plant a new crop, that's when communities start to breathe again. That's when dignity returns. That's when people stop being victims and start being survivors. The UNDP has allocated early funding specifically to map economic damage at the community level and guide the government toward long-term recovery aid that actually reaches the people who need it. Not just contractors from Kingston, not just international firms, local people. Because the money spent on recovery should also be money that stays in Jamaica, that rebuilds Jamaican wealth, that creates Jamaican jobs. Pillar 3. Resilience. And this is the game changer. Don't rebuild what failed. Rebuild smarter. Install solar power for critical community infrastructure so that when the next storm knocks out the grid, clinics and shelters can still operate. Restore forests and mangroves, not as beautification projects, but as strategic defenses. Because a healthy mangrove forest can absorb storm surge. A restored hillside forest can prevent landslides. Nature isn't decoration. It's infrastructure. The UN is using precision, not just emotion. They're using the AI satellite data to identify which areas are most vulnerable, which communities need reinforcement, where resources should be allocated first. For the first time, recovery is being guided by evidence. Data turned into action, and that gives us a fighting chance. Now, let me hit you with 4 bonus facts that didn't make it into the main findings, but are absolutely critical to understanding the full story. Bonus fact 1. Jamaica's catastrophe bond paid out in record time. $150 million released faster than any previous disaster payout in Caribbean history. That sounds like good news until you remember it covers less than 3% of the actual damage. 3%. It's a band-aid on a bullet wound. Bonus fact 2. The UN's AI satellite system that analyzed Hurricane Melissa can now map any global disaster within 72 hours. That technology is already being deployed to other climate-vulnerable nations. What happened in Jamaica is creating a blueprint for rapid disaster response worldwide. Our suffering is becoming the lesson that might save others. Bonus fact 3. If that vegetation debris isn't cleared quickly, It could release thousands of tons of methane as it decomposes. Methane is 30 times more potent than carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas, which means if we don't act fast, Hurricane Melissa's debris could literally contribute to warming the planet further, making future storms even worse. The disaster isn't over. It's still unfolding. Bonus fact 4. Satellite data from Jamaica is right now today being used in climate justice arguments at COP30. Our pain is being entered into evidence. Jamaica's story is being told in international forums, not as a cautionary tale, but as proof. Proof that climate change is real. Proof that it's deadly. Proof that someone needs to be held accountable. So here we are. 7 findings. 4.8 million tons of debris. 1.5 million lives upended. $7 billion in damage. 32 confirmed dead. And one undeniable truth: Hurricane Melissa was not a natural disaster. It was a climate disaster. It was the predictable, measurable result of decades of global inaction. It was supercharged by human choices. And it's left Jamaica, once again, paying the price for a crisis we didn't create. But here's what the UN report also proves. We're not powerless. The same technology that mapped the destruction can guide the recovery. The same data that proves climate responsibility can unlock climate funding. The same storm that revealed our vulnerabilities can force us to build resilience. Hurricane Melissa was a mirror. It showed us the cost of inaction. It showed us the fragility of systems we thought were solid. It showed us that climate change isn't coming. It's here. It's been here. And it has a body count. But it also showed us something else. It showed us Jamaican resilience. It showed us communities coming together when systems failed. It showed us that even when a third of our economy is erased, even when half our population is displaced, even when the roads are blocked and the power is out and the water stops running, we don't disappear. We survive. We adapt. We rebuild. The question now is, what kind of future are we rebuilding toward? Are we going to restore what failed? Or are we going to demand something better? Are we going to accept sympathy from the countries whose emissions caused this? Or are we going to demand accountability? Are we going to let this story fade into the next news cycle? Or are we going to make sure the world knows what happened here? If you believe Jamaica's story must be told, subscribe to Platinum Pulse now. Share this video with those who need it. Comment below and share your thoughts on Jamaica's future. The UN provides data, but you give voice. Together, our voices can move mountains.